It is estimated that about 2 billion people celebrate Christmas around the world. The name is derived from Christ's Mass, and while to many Christians it is a religious holiday commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ, it is also celebrated by many non-Christians in a secular way as well. For a while, Christmas was more associated with feasting and drinking and was not considered Christian enough by certain religious groups, notably the Puritans, who banned Christmas in England in 1647. The ban wasn't very popular in most parts and was repealed with the restoration of the monarchy in 1660. The Puritan government of the Massachusetts colony also banned Christmas from 1659 to 1681. One could even be fined 5 shillings for celebrating it. While it's a big holiday in America today, for much of the country's early history it was not widely celebrated. Its popularity increased partly due to it being written about in popular literature of the time. American author Washington Irving wrote extensively about his experiences celebrating Christmas in England in his 1819 book, The Sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, which also included popular stories like Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. During this time, even in England, Christmas was not as popular, and the old Christmas traditions were mainly kept alive in the rural parts. Irving's book helped reintroduce them to a larger audience and inspired other works which would continue to establish many modern customs. As Brian J. Jones, author of Washington Irving, an American Original, said, Charles Dickens later fine-tuned the Christmas story, but Irving had laid the foundation. Americans embraced Irving's vision of Christmas as their own, marking the revival of a holiday that had been banned in parts of the country for excessive drinking and fighting it spurred in the populace. Throughout its many centuries of existence, Christmas has been celebrated in many different ways, with new customs being added over time. What's up guys, Friendly Neighborhood Pig here, and in this video we're going to be looking at some popular Christmas traditions and examining where they come from. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's just get into the video. Winter holidays, similar to the modern celebration of Christmas, have existed across various different cultures and are where a lot of present-day holiday traditions originate. The ancient Germanic peoples celebrated Yule around the time of the winter solstice, and the Roman holiday Saturnalia was held around that time in December in honor of the god Saturn. Saturnalia typically lasted from December 17th to December 23rd and consisted of festivities like gambling, drinking, gift-giving, and feasts. There were also religious ceremonies held at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum. The social rules of Rome were not followed during this time. For instance, slaves were allowed to eat with their masters and were sometimes even served by them. The first Christians did not celebrate Christmas. It wasn't until the year 336 when the first recorded celebration of the holiday occurred on December 25th. While nobody knows exactly what time of year the biblical accounts of Jesus' birth take place, it most likely wasn't in December. The date was chosen by Pope Julius I, and there are a number of different theories as for why, but the exact reason remains unclear. The 25th of December was believed by the Romans to be the birth of the sun god Sol Invictus, and the church likely wanted to replace the pagan celebrations with Christian ones. Another possible explanation is that December 25th is 9 months after March 25th, the Feast of the Annunciation, when Jesus is believed to have been conceived. It was believed that Jesus died around the same time of year of his conception, and based on the biblical accounts, that day was thought to be March 25th on the calendar the Romans used. Regardless of the reason, the majority of people around the world celebrate Christmas on December 25th, though there are some Christian denominations that celebrate it on January 6th or January 7th. Since the time of the first recorded celebration, the holiday has changed a lot over the centuries and has spread throughout the world. There was a time where it was commonly celebrated for 12 days, from December 25th to January 6th. Gift-giving has long been a major part of Christmas celebrations. The practice of giving gifts dates back long before Christianity. For example, the ancient Egyptians were among some of the first people to engage in the practice, and the Romans gave each other presents during Saturnalia. As Christianity spread, gift-giving became associated with the story of the Magi, or the three kings, who are said to have brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh to Jesus. For many years, in some parts, gifts were more commonly exchanged during New Year's or at the Epiphany, January 6, or on St. Nicholas Day, December 6, but over time became more commonly associated with Christmas for a variety of reasons. one being the Protestant Reformation. The Protestants wanted to give more attention to Jesus and Christmas instead of the other feasts, and moved the gift-giving tradition to Christmas instead. Because of this, even today in some parts of Europe, the gift bringer is the Christ child, or Christkindl, which is where the anglicized version Christkringle comes from. St. Nicholas Day and Epiphany are also still celebrated in parts of the world. Christmas also was increasingly being seen as a family holiday instead of for the more adult-oriented celebrations that were more common, in part because of stories like the 1823 poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, and the 1843 story, A Christmas Carol. According to the National Retail Federation, the average American plans to spend about $875 this holiday season, with around $600 of that spent on gifts. In most countries around the world, there is some variation of somebody that delivers the presents. Since the most famous of that is Santa Claus, that is who we will be covering during this part of the video. Traditions of legendary figures visiting during the winter seasons goes back centuries. One notable example was the Norse god Odin, who was a central figure in Yule celebrations. Another precursor to Santa was Father Christmas, who first appeared in Britain around the 15th century and personified the holiday, though he was more associated with festivities like drinking and feasting rather than giving gifts. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, gifts began to become associated with St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas was a bishop who lived in the 3rd century in what is now Turkey. There are many stories of his generosity, including one involving a man who was unable to pay for his 3 daughters to be married. In those times, it meant the women would have most likely been sold into prostitution. Having been made aware of the family's situation, Nicholas delivered a bag of gold to the house at night, which ended up in the stockings that were hanging to dry. Another night he delivered a second bag of gold, and when he came back to give the 3rd bag, the father, who had been staying up to see who it was bringing the gold, saw Nicholas and thanked him. And though Nicholas had asked for this to be a secret, the story soon spread. St. Nicholas became a popular figure in Europe, leading to the celebrations on the day that he is believed to have died, December 6. He was particularly popular in the Netherlands, where the Dutch referred to him as Sinterklaas and brought over their customs to their colonies in America. If you're interested in learning more about early Dutch settlements in the US, like New Amsterdam, there is a video on my channel which goes over it. It's an older video, but the information should still be good. The American writer Washington Irving, who wrote many stories featuring Dutch settlements in New York, helped popularize and recreate interest in Sinterklaas in America in his 1809 book, A History of New York, where he wrote a story about St. Nicholas, which described him, saying, "In the sylvan days of New Amsterdam, the good St. Nicholas would often make his appearance in his beloved city of a holiday afternoon, riding jollily among the treetops or over the roofs of houses, now and then drawing forth magnificent presents from his breeches pockets and dropping them down the chimneys of his favorites." In 1821, a children's poem, Old Santy Claus with Much Delight, was published also in New York. Its illustrations helped further change the way Santa was depicted, as it was the first instance of a sleigh with reindeer being used, though it was only one reindeer. It was also among the first to mention Santa coming on Christmas Eve instead of on St. Nicholas Day, and changed the clothes he wore by not having him dress as a bishop or in old Dutch clothes. The author and illustrator of the poem remain unknown. Another influential poem was published 2 years later, also in upstate New York, by Clement Clark Moore, titled A Visit from St. Nicholas, better known by its opening line, "'Twas the night before Christmas." This also added to how Santa was depicted, having him come on Christmas Eve and having a sleigh pulled by reindeer, though this time there were 8 and they were each given a name. It also described Santa as dressed in all fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. And he had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf. These descriptions gradually helped shape how he was depicted, and over time more elements were added to the lore. Further development came later in the 19th century by American political cartoonist Thomas Nast. Many of Nast's drawings of Santa helped him become the figure most people would recognize today. The idea that Santa lives in the North Pole also came from a Thomas Nast cartoon published in 1866. The first mention of Santa having a wife came from a short story published in 1849 called A Christmas Legend, and elves started to become associated with Santa in the 1850s. Contrary to what some think, Santa does not wear red and white because it was created by the Coca-Cola Company. Though Coca-Cola did feature Santa extensively in an advertising campaign in the 1930s, the character used had already been established and was based off of previous descriptions. Coke's illustration of Santa was developed by artist Haddon Sundblom and helped to further popularize Santa's image. The American version of Santa Claus spread throughout the world, although there are still other gift bringers that are more prevalent in other parts of the world as well. Using greenery in winter holidays has been around since before Christianity. A Christian legend says the first Christmas tree came from an interaction St. Boniface had with Germanic pagans. In the story, St. Boniface cut down a sacred oak tree dedicated to the god Thor, where the pagans would worship and conduct human sacrifices. Not far from where the oak tree was, there was a fir tree, which according to one story, Boniface said of it, "That shall be the sign of your new worship. See how it points to the sky? Call it the tree of the Christ child. Take it up and carry it into the chieftain's hall. You shall go no more into the shadows of the forest to keep your feast with secret rites of shame. You shall keep them at home with laughter and songs and rites of love. The thunder oak has fallen, and I think the day is coming where there shall not be a home in all of Germany where the children are not gathered around the green fir tree to rejoice in the birth night of Christ." Though modern Christmas trees are instead thought to have originated in medieval times. In those days, many Christians celebrated the feast day of Adam and Eve on December 24th. Part of the celebrations included performing a play depicting their story, where a prop used was a tree decorated with apples, known as the Paradise Tree. Over time, more decorations were added, and the trees would be brought into people's homes. Their tradition was mainly popular in German parts of Europe, and is thought to have started in the 16th century. It is said Martin Luther was the first to light the Christmas tree using candles. This custom spread into different parts of the world through German immigrants, but it wasn't until the 19th century when it gained widespread popularity. Queen Victoria's German-born husband, Prince Albert, brought the custom to England. Many British people were introduced to it after seeing the publicized images of the royal family decorating their tree, such as this one that was published in the Illustrated London News in 1848. From there, the practice of decorating a Christmas tree became more common, both in people's homes and in public spaces. Another symbol of Christmas is the mistletoe. The plant is a parasitic species that grows on various trees and has had symbolic and cultural importance in many different cultures over time. For example, in Norse mythology, there is a story of one of Odin's sons, Baldur, whose family cast a spell to ensure that anything, living or non-living, would not harm him, only for Baldur to end up being killed by a spear made from a mistletoe plant. The Druids thought the mistletoe was sacred and believed it would help with fertility. They conducted rituals and sacrificed 2 bulls whenever one was found growing on a tree. Mistletoe continued to have an association with fertility, and the practice of kissing under it became popular in 18th century England. One of the earliest known references to this custom comes from a song from 1784. The verse mentioning it says, "When at Christmas in the hall, the men and maids are hopping. If by chance I hear 'em bawl, amongst 'em quick I pop in. Where all the men, Jem, John, and Joe, cry, 'What good luck has sent ye?' and kiss beneath the mistletoe the girl not turned of 20. It gained more popularity through being mentioned in literary works like the Charles Dickens novel The Pickwick Papers and Washington Irving's The Sketchbook, where he wrote about Christmas traditions he observed while in England, saying, "The mistletoe is still hung up in the farmhouses and the kitchens at Christmas, and the young men have the privilege of kissing the girls under it, plucking each time a berry from the bush. When the berries are all plucked, the privilege ceases."
Hey, Freindlyneighborhood pig, aren't you gonna kiss me?
Oh, not right now, Freindlyneighborhood crocodile. I gotta finish the rest of this video.
Come on, it's tradition.
Candy canes are a popular candy during Christmas. They are said to have originated in the year 1670 in Germany, where a choir master at the Cologne Cathedral gave them to children to help them be quiet during the nativity scenes. The hook was reportedly added to represent the shepherd's crook, though it may have also been because they were used to decorate Christmas trees. For a while, they were just white. The red stripes were added most likely in the late 19th and early 20th century, along with the standard peppermint flavor. Mass production of the candy canes began around the 1920s, notably by the American company Bob's Candies, which later became the largest producer of them in the world. Christmas-themed music is popular during the holiday season and has been for centuries. The earliest Christmas carols were mostly written in Latin and were to be sung during church services. Some of the oldest include Jesus Rufusat Omnium and Corde Natus ex Parentis, both written in the 4th century. More developments came in the 13th century when St. Francis of Assisi began doing nativity plays. Music would often be a part of it, and the songs were usually sung in the local languages more people understood instead of just Latin. In addition to this, the music was beginning to be written down, which also helped it be more accessible. New songs were written all over Europe. The first known English Christmas carols are thought to have appeared in the year 1426. Many of these were sung during whale sailing, when people would go from house to house singing songs, often in exchange for a drink of whale sail, a hot mulled drink served in a bowl. Christmas music was also popular during the Protestant Reformation, with Martin Luther himself even writing some Christmas songs. The resurgence in the holiday's popularity in the 19th century also contributed to more songs being written and Christmas music becoming more popular. Some of the songs written during this time were based off of existing music. For example, the music for Good King Wenceslas was written during medieval times, but the lyrics were written in the 1850s. Publication of Christmas songbooks like Christmas Carols New and Old from 1871 helped introduce some of the older songs to more people and contributed to further popularizing Christmas carols. There was also another increase in Christmas music in the 20th century, helped in part by new technology like the radio. Many of these songs were less religious and focused on other aspects of Christmas, like the song Santa Claus is Coming to Town, written in 1934. Another popular song, White Christmas, was written in 1942 and featured in the movie from that year called Holiday Inn. It gained popularity, especially with the soldiers during World War II, and the Bing Crosby version today is still the best-selling single of all time. There were a number of Christmas songs released in the 1950s as rock music became more listened to. Well-known artists at the time, like Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry, were among the many popular musicians that released Christmas music, and as time went on, many pop stars did as well. Even today, new Christmas music continues to be made. Well, looks like that's the end of this video. I thought I'd do something a little festive, for this time of year. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and feel free to check out some other videos on my channel as well. I've been trying to upload as often as possible, so a new video will be up shortly. As always, this has been the Friendly Neighborhood Pig. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys soon with another video.